The words came out of her mouth like a slap I didn't see coming. "I'll only open my legs for you once a month." No laughter, no hint of teasing, just cold finality. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, phone in hand, face lit by the pale glow of the screen instead of the lamp between us. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence that followed, and I swear I could hear the sound of something inside me breaking, something fragile that had already been cracking for months. At first, I thought I'd misheard her. "What?" I asked, almost whispering. She looked up, finally meeting my eyes, expression blank. "You heard me, Mark. I'm tired. We're adults. We don't need to act like rabbits. Once a month is enough." Enough. That word stung more than I expected. I stared at her for a long time, searching her face for a trace of the woman I'd fallen in love with, the one who used to wrap her arms around me in the morning, who used to laugh when I kissed her neck while she cooked. But that woman wasn't there anymore. The person in front of me looked detached, controlled, as if she'd made peace with something I hadn't even begun to understand. I nodded slowly, not trusting myself to speak. I wanted to yell, to demand answers. But instead I just said, "Okay," and stood up. I walked to the sink, washed my glass, and went to bed without another word. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing. My mind spun through memories, trying to make sense of how we'd ended up here. Maybe it was my fault, working late, missing dinners, being too tired to talk. Maybe she felt neglected. Maybe she'd stopped feeling wanted before I even noticed. The questions circled endlessly, tightening in my chest until I couldn't breathe. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek before leaving for work and asked me to pick up groceries on my way home. That casual normalcy was almost worse than the argument itself. It told me she'd thought about it for a while, planned it, decided it was the new rule of our marriage. The first week passed in silence. I went through the motions, work, dinner, small talk, but everything felt rehearsed. She smiled when I handed her the receipt from the grocery store, thanked me when I cooked dinner. But her eyes never lingered on me anymore. The second week, I noticed she was dressing differently. Nicer clothes, perfume she hadn't worn in years. She started staying late at work, claiming meetings or team drinks. I tried to brush it off, telling myself she just needed space. People go through phases. But in my gut, I already knew something wasn't right. One Friday night I stayed up waiting for her. She texted that she'd be late, again, and I sat on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the ticking clock. Midnight passed. At 1 I finally heard her key in the lock. "Long night?" I asked as she walked in. She hesitated, startled to see me awake. "Yeah, team dinner ran late." She avoided my eyes. "Who was there?" Asked casually. She sighed, irritated. "Does it matter? Mark, you're being paranoid. I told you it's work." I nodded but said nothing. That's when I noticed the faint red mark on her neck. Small but unmistakable. My stomach dropped. She caught my stare, instinctively brushed her hair over it, and walked past me toward the bedroom. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. I sat in the living room, phone clutched tight, scrolling through her social media, her friends, her coworkers, trying to connect dots I didn't want to see. The next morning I asked her straight out, "Is there someone else?" She froze, toothbrush halfway to her mouth. "What? Well, God, Mark, don't start this. Then why do you look at me like a stranger? Why do you smell like a man's cologne every other night?" Her lips tightened. "Maybe because you're suffocating me. Maybe because every time I walk in, you're waiting to interrogate me." I swallowed hard, her words slicing deep. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be wrong. So I dropped it for a while. But then came the night she didn't come home at all. She texted at 10 p.m. "Staying at Sarah's. Too tired to drive." Something about the message felt rehearsed. Cold. I drove to Sarah's apartment. The parking lot was empty except for one car, my wife's. The lights were off inside. My heart pounded as I dialed Sarah's number. No answer. I texted. Is Emily with you? 15 minutes later she replied. No. Haven't seen her in weeks. That's when something inside me snapped. I drove aimlessly for hours, the weight of betrayal pressing harder with every mile. I thought about every moment she'd dismissed me, every time she'd said she was tired, every night she'd rolled away from me in bed. It all added up now. When I finally returned home, it was past dawn. She was sitting at the table, hair messy, wearing the same dress from the night before. Where were you? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Don't lie to me, Emily. Please. Her eyes glistened, but her voice was firm. Mark. It just happened. I didn't plan it. The words cut through me. I felt everything at once. Rage, disbelief, sorrow, pity. My hands trembled. You didn't plan it. I repeated. You planned everything. You rationed affection like punishment. You disappeared into your phone. You made me feel like a ghost in my own home. Tears streamed down her face now, but I didn't feel mercy. Only exhaustion. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said the last thing I ever told her as her husband. I'm not begging for your touch, Emily. But you'll face the consequences. I left before she could answer. The next morning I called a lawyer. By that evening she was the one calling, crying, asking if we could talk. I didn't pick up. Weeks passed. He tried visiting. She sent letters apologizing, begging to work things out. But I'd made my choice. She once said I'd only get her once a month, so that's what she gets now. Once a month, when she drops by to sign the next round of divorce papers or collect her things, we exchange a few polite words. No shouting, no tears, just silence. And every time she walks away, I remember the night her words broke something I'll never rebuild. She thought denying me affection gave her control. But in the end, it was the moment she lost me completely.